the club right. Okay, so Connor, we've talked about Super League. We've given our takes. It's obviously not happening. But our favorite sport on this show is college football. Now, college football, of course, moved away from the BCS to the college football playoff. But I kind of want to see, do we feel like the CFP, the college football playoff, I want your take on this. Is it really sort of kind of not self-proclaimed super league, but is it shoving college football into a super league almost status?
Yes. I mean, yes and no. I mean, you've got, um, I think that, Alabama, if anything, the t the money that has been funneled into the SEC has created the Super League, right? I think that the TV contracts around the big conferences and the BCS, not BCS games, but the New Year's Six bowl games and the Big Ten networks and all these network dollars. I mean that's feeding so much of this stuff. Now, I think also in the same way that the AFC North, to go back to the NFL just for a second. I mean, fans of the Baltimore Ravens probably care a whole lot more about the Baltimore Ravens than the University of Maryland Terrapins.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Baltimore Ravens are a pretty dang good franchise that gets run pretty dang well. Alabama football, people in Alabama care about Alabama football. So I think that you have an emphasis piece there. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think that the Super League in some ways is already happening, and the college football playoff is more of um, it's more of the proof positive, if you will, uh, because we're seeing so many teams in it year in, year out, especially these last 4 or so years with seeming Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson every year in that playoff.
Yeah, I think you've touched on TV money very well. The biggest TV money move, in my opinion, was Rutgers joining the Big Ten, which, besides a couple of years of Greg Schiano, and you think about what the Big Ten is supposed to represent as a conference, these big schools in America, Rutgers was very obviously brought in for New York TV money and get that type of exposure. But to your point about professional sports, college football regionally is cared about differently. Um, I think what the CFP is doing is, while we don't have a super league, since the CFP is repeating, it's creating a divide. And I liken to watching college football on a Saturday in my house. I'll sit down. I'm a Georgia Southern alumni. We play in the Sun Belt. We play in the college football level, right? The best team in the conference is App State. They'll get in the 20 rankings. I'll watch that game, and then that will go off, and then I'll watch whatever the CFP storyline game is. And my wife will say to me, "Why are you watching?" As an example, "Why are you watching Clemson play Florida State? You don't really care about Florida State. You don't really like Clemson. Like, you're not drawn to these schools. Why are you watching?" Like, well, this has national implications. So it feels in a way college football is moving into a tale of two leagues. Give another hometown example for us. We talk about UCF all the time, and go Knights, but UCF couldn't quite, in their prime where they were seeing their dip and they're on their third coaching change, they couldn't quite nail up into the playoff and just jump into that elite, even though they were doing everything they could in their league.
And outside of their league, they declared themselves national champions. I mean, that's kind of like the Super League.
It's very super league.
That is very. Did we just create a verb? You just super leagued.
You are so super leaguing tonight.
There you go. Creating words here on Friend Stream Sports. No, yeah, I think, um, yeah, it's very interesting, right, to see, um, even at the division. I think about Wheaton, so it's a little different on the D3 level, but that D1 level of, Georgia Southern, if they've got a noon kick, but then the 8 o'clock game is, USC Oregon. In the same way, right, that first game of the day might be, Southampton versus Burnley, but Man City versus Liverpool's that night. So you might watch Southampton Burnley from your house, but then you go to the pub for Man City Liverpool. To keep it real. So I think it is sort of sucking a little bit of the juice out from everybody to get put into just a few top teams. it's sort of positioning those top teams as always getting the 8 o'clock kicks. Granted, they are winning, so there's a little bit where they should get those prime time kicks and things like that. But no, I think being able to create a man, I'd put promotion and relegation into a lot of things here, sports wise in America. Potentially even college football.
I want to hear that. Hold on to that promotion relegation thing, but Connor, I want your take on this thought really quick. So, college football and the way that we embrace it, that my team, we love our big school teams, right? The University of Georgia, Florida, Florida State, Tennessee. There's plenty of other schools in that area, but we identify with our big school teams. Do you think if the big school teams joined together, would American fans react the same way that European fans did? Or would we be more about it as we live in a world that's bigger, faster, stronger? I dominated you more. You know, I'm sure every Alabama fan loves that they've beaten the life out of Notre Dame twice, even though in other countries that much of a destruction would be considered unsportsmanlike. So, how do you think Americans would take a super league in college football?
I could see the interest. I think that we'd embrace it better in college football because we already have non-conference and strength of schedule become such a thing. What I think would happen though would be you would see a shifting in recruiting. So other players would go because you have some four-star players that will go to maybe not the best team or the best conference, but they know that they're going to put up good numbers, and not have necessarily the murderers row week in, week out. That's a thing in recruiting that happens. Um, so I think that you have a little bit of that. I think we'd embrace that maybe a little bit better. Um, I think that would definitely create controversy as it relates to any sort of national champion because if you're in the Super League, you could be the third best team in the Super League, the college football Super League, but then get say, oh well, we're better than everybody else just because we by virtue of we play in the Super League, so we play a tougher schedule. So I think it would cause I think that we'd embrace it better, but it wouldn't necessarily like make us feel better about ourselves. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I think it's all kind of come to um, the college football playoff right now. I will say is broken. 4 teams doesn't seem to make sense. Even Steven dropped in the content. The content there should be 10 teams, which a 3 versus a 10 is a very different game that could go very sideways just because of the talent level in the game that it is. I want to give what I would put together for a super league. Connor, get your take, and then I want us to quickly end on maybe you pitched this to me, but I want you to share with our listeners of what relegation and promotion in college football would look like because I want to just get that chatter started. So if I created a 15 league super team, here are the teams that I would put in it. And this is also including that it would have the 20 as said in the other actual European Super League. But my 15 guaranteed every years are Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, then Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas, Clemson, Florida State, and then Notre Dame. So that would be if I made a super team. The other 5 seeds through playing the Super League games would be the non-Power 5 conferences. Their champions would be able to come in and play against these teams. Connor, who would you, out of all those teams, would you change any?
Yes. Well, first off, you closed it even more than the regular Super League. Uh, but what about Miami? What about Miami? What about trade? And here's the thing that's kind of interesting, at least for the conversation's sake. You trade out Miami for Oregon, right? And you could have a ton of conversation of why Miami, or shoot, trade Miami out for Florida State, and you'd have Florida State people say, "Man, why would you trade Miami out for Florida State?" You could talk about all the comparableness there, right? Where's Nebraska, right? Nebraska is probably a lot more like the AC Milan that just by their name recognition made it into the soccer, proper football Super League. So
Mhm.
that's the hard part, I think, with a Super League type format is um, you make it too big, and everybody, folks are going to feel left out that have some actual beef, if you will.
I was expecting to have some controversy, especially uh on a couple of my team takes of who I left out. I will say the one that is a Super League name alone team, I believe, is Notre Dame. While a good program, that is a name recognition because of how up and down they were for so many years. It's just a tradition.